Okay, remember that they're changing my voice? This is Ezekiel chapter 28, part 2. So I left off on verse 7 or so. I'm going to bring foreigners against you, the most ruthless of nations. They will draw their swords against your beauty and wisdom and pierce your shining splendor. They will bring you down to the pit, and you will die a violent death in the heart of the seas. Will you then say, I'm a god in the presence of those who kill you? You'll be but mortal, not a god, in the hands of those who slay you. Now let's stop here for a second. Obviously, Christ and John the Baptist and Stephen the Martyr were killed, surrounded by the enemies of God. So it's talking about the soul of somebody. You will die the death of the uncircumcised at the hand of foreigners. I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre and say to him, This is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you, carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald, topaz, onyx, and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. So it's saying that the spirit of the king of Tyre, right? You know, it goes back to Psalm 82, where it says that there were these kings who were right with God, and Scripture came through them, and they were all sons of the Most High, and then they fell out of grace. And Tyre is connected to them, right? So is Sidon and Moab and Cush and on and on and on. Okay. Now, we'll get to that in another video, the difference between me and, a worldly king of Cush, right? Because there's kings of Cush more so than in other cultures, right? Like, for example, in the Igbo tribe, there are several people who are given a certain status that's higher than the other local village chiefs. Okay, that these guys are kings, right? Neri and Eri. Okay, Eri is like the king of heaven, Neri the king of earth, something to that effect. Okay. And of course, people apply it differently. It's become more worldly. They try to cheat me more and more. And someone else claims to be the king of Eri. Okay, and that person, well, one of these guys died recently or something, the last couple of years or something, last 4 years or something. And, they're also talking about them, right? People who are not obeying God through me. So that's a little bit more complex of an issue that I'm not trying to touch on in this video. I'm trying to make this quick. But we can, I've talked about in other videos, right? To make a long story short, regardless of the language that's being used, of how it's being communicated, I'm the Son of God. And the Bible is just the Bible. What the righteous person says is greater than what the mere scribes are saying that the righteous person says. It's pretty straightforward. Okay. And of course, it's coded in there. The Jews in the story, what comes to mind when you think of Jews in popular culture when you're young, aren't the chosen people of God, right? Those are just people who have a certain relationship with the governing class of the world, like in Rome, and they got their way and people pointed to them. If they hadn't maneuvered a certain way, a different story would have taken over the world, right? Satan is said to be the god of this world, and he kind of chose what religion became the major religion of this world. Even the Bible says that narrow is the way to life and broad is the way to destruction, right? The masses of people go to their destruction. So the people following the major religions of the world are going to their destruction. Everyone's going to the destruction except for a small group of people that has it right. Okay. In this case, it's, at the end, it's those who obey God through me, and my parents are blameless, and no one's obeying God through me right now, so it's just a small group of people, my parents and I. And something to be said about my brothers. Most of my older brother's more reckless, and has caused me quite a bit of stress, and his work with the state to cause me cognitive harm, and so on and so forth. But anyway, so let's go back to this now. It says, so he has these precious stones that stand for things like wisdom and insight and discipline, and a certain way that the soul shines when you come into these true monotheistic martial art principles that are the life principles, what have you. It goes on to say, you were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. And this has connections to, certain Indian religions, right? Hinduism, and these people who are said to walk on fiery coals, and it's similar. There's parallels there, right? There's parallels to everything that it is fair to draw parallels to. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you, right? Till wickedness was found in them, right? It's the righteous versus the wicked. Through your widespread trade you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. So these are, this idea that he's referring to is the idea of the spirit of a divine being. So if a divine being can be driven away from wickedness, so can a people, right? So can the flesh of a people. As John the Baptist said, from these stones he can raise up children for Abraham. He made it crystal clear that it isn't the flesh that determines the divine order. Okay, it is the spirit. And after the Jews kept failing to produce the fruits of leadership, the fruits of divine leaders, then we no longer look to them first, right? We've been looking to black people, those of us who are insightful, for a long time now. But after my flesh dies, nobody, black or otherwise, will be able to continue ruling on behalf of God, being a way to enter the kingdom of heaven, what have you. Through your widespread trade you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you. And I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who are watching. So again, using the example of Peter, when Christ says, "Get away from me, Satan," okay, and Christ being tempted in the wilderness, it doesn't say in what form the devil is in, okay, is in the form of people, in the form of the spirits that the people have brought into the world, the idol spirits in the atmosphere, in the land, what have you. Here we see that Satan is said to have been, it's Satan because it's a form of Satan. It's a demon in the spirit of Satan. So the demon represents Satan. It represents his individual demon position, but also represents Satan, like those who are in some worldly cultures, like a mere racial culture, this culture, white, black, this, that, Jewish, a mere racial culture. Okay, all racial cultures are satanic cultures, because you have to make the difference. You make the distinction between me, where I have a transcendent martial art culture that happens to be found in the evil line, and a racial culture, like say a Pan-African, or say a white American culture, white global white culture, whatever, right? Jewish culture. Those are racial cultures. Those aren't divine cultures. It's like Israel, for example, right? It's an ethno-state. It's not a theocracy, right? And if it was a theocracy, their religions are in the boundaries of the mere flesh. And even Christians know that, because they know when you define yourself as a Jew and not a Christian, that you've rejected the idea of following Christ for your mere flesh. So they're a cult of the flesh. If you don't know that, man, you are far out of touch. And again, this video isn't about bashing Israel, but this, Anna from the Young Turks, she happens to be Jewish, said that that the world hates Israel, right? She's saying that, not me. I happen to agree with the statement, but I'm not anti-Semitic. I just tell the truth. Okay. And she says, because they say that they're chosen. She specifically said that they say that they're chosen, but they behave like demons. And she's probably a liberal, secular feminist or something, right? I don't know that much about her, but one way or another, it's a Jewish person saying that these people are claiming to be chosen, but act like demons. So it is the actions that define. Even the pagans, even the secularists, even people who are agnostic, even people who are atheists should understand that. Okay. So where was I here? Let's go back to verse 17. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. We see in the New Testament where Christ said he saw Satan being thrown to the earth in a lightning bolt. Falling to the earth in a lightning bolt. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuary. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you, and I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who are watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end and will be no more. Now again, it's very important that you understand that when Christ was on the cross, every leader of this world, right, who thinks about that idea, okay, Christ is on the cross in the story, for example, superimposed on something else in real life. They see him as greater than King Charles, the King of Jordan, King of Saudi Arabia, whatever, right? Some Zulu king or whoever, right? Chief of this, chief of that, king of this, president, prime minister, okay? So it's not talking about because he was, because he was poor or because, his nation was invaded. It's talking about because he was not in the Spirit of God. And they saw the punishments inflicted upon him as a result of not being in the Spirit of God, right? You can't serve God and money, and having money doesn't mean that you're of God. So prophecy against Sidon. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against Sidon, prophesy against her, and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says, I'm against you, Sidon, and among you I will display my glory. You will know that I am the Lord when I inflict punishment on you, and within you am proved to be holy. So they're kind of feeling me here. So let's wrap this up quickly. I will send a plague upon you, make blood flow in your streets. The slain will fall within you with a sword against you on every side. Then you will know that I am the Lord. No longer will the people of Israel have malicious neighbors who are painful briars and sharp thorns. They will know that I am the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. When I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they have been scattered, I will be proved holy through them in the sight of many nations, right? So when people see that the righteous are gone, right, that they're in the heavens, that they're with God, that God will be proven holy, they'll look around and see worms who worship the devil, who are causing each other harm, who are wasting their lives, who are hooked to a machine. They're, elevating mere scientists, mere arrogant European royals, mere arrogant rich Americans, rich Zionists and rich Jews who think because they're not Zionists that they're somehow magically okay or something. And as they see this stuff, right, token minorities, they're going to be like, man, and they already are like, man, these people have failed in life miserably. These are the type of people who, in the Christmas Carol cartoon, would have taken a piece of Tiny Tim's pee just to be that much richer. Okay, just sick, very sick, demented people who think that they shouldn't end homelessness, who think they shouldn't end world hunger when it's easy to do so. Very demented and disturbed people, very sick people. And then you see a pecking order based on that. You know what you call a Nazi who has regrets? A Nazi. You know what you call a Nazi who's not a big fan of Hitler? A Nazi. You know what you call someone in white culture who's not leading the charge, but instead has their head down? Okay? Someone who's upholding white supremacy. You have to separate yourself from these mere flesh-based cultures and come into universal pinpoint and moral precision by obeying God through me, or you're guilty of whatever flesh-based culture you're in and whatever your part is. You're judged as a group and as an individual, like Sodom and Gomorrah. It was destroyed as a group, and as individuals, they were punished according to their deeds. Okay. So then they will live in their own land, which I gave to my servant. They will live there in safety and will build houses and plant vineyards. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on all of their neighbors who malign them. Then they will know that I am the Lord their God.